What's up, Woodworking Nation, and welcome to Armor God Woodworks. Today, we've got this really cool island right here. It's an L-shaped island. It's 3 feet this way, and it's 4 feet that way. So we basically got 5 feet on the back and about 6 feet on this side on the back. And so we got our carcasses made and everything, and we've got our drawer boxes built in. We got our faces installed, and so now we're ready to put a back panel on this thing. We've got a special requested back panel. It kind of matches another island that we did a few weeks ago. And so I wanted to show you how to lay that out because it can be a little bit tricky to make sure your geometry lines up and everything. And so we'll step over here to the assembly table and I'll show you how we get that thing laid out. All right, so we stepped away from the island real quick and we're going to come over here to our assembly table. So the piece that we have right here is the back panel that goes on the long side of the back of the island. And this has got a really neat little grid on it. And so everything's got to be even. And I wanted to show you how that we lay these things out so that you have even spacing across it and up and down. And that way it's appealing to the eyes, it looks nice, and it makes the job it makes it pop really good. So when you're figuring these things out, you can see this is our back panel. We've got a 6-inch bottom down here, and that'll come up where it's even with our bottom rail on our front face frame. We want to make sure all that's evened up, and so whenever this butts into the side, it'll be perfect. And so then we got our top rail, it's 2 inches, and then we got our 2 sides, and they're 2 inches apiece. We got this end dadoed in so that whenever we slide it up in there, it'll accept the plywood side of that end of the cabinet, and that way we can lock it all together and put our panel on that end. So laying these things out can be a little bit tricky. So the first thing you have to do is decide what size your verticals are going to be. And we made these 3 inches. I want them a little bit beefier. It makes the panel look a lot better, and we'll have a piece of trim that goes inside of it that we'll make right here in the shop also. So we really want to make this thing where it's going to look real masculine. It's going to look real nice, and it's not, it's going to look like it's real tough and bulky, and that's the way we want it to look. So all these vertical pieces on the interior are 3 inches. So to lay this out, the first thing you would have to do is you measure in between. So that's the space you're going to have right there at 67 1/8 inches. So you're going to take that and you're going to subtract 9 because you've got 3 of these. So that'll take up 9 inches of your space in here. And then you divide that by 4, and that'll give you your spacing. So it comes up, it's 14 9/16. So I've got all these laid out, 14 9/16, and there's 14 9/16 inches in between every section. So then, we want to decrease the size of this panel right here. So we're going to put 2 horizontal runs on this side. So the way that you do that is it's the same exact thing. So you measure in between. It's 26 7/16 inches, and you subtract 6 because these are the pieces that go inside, and they're 3 inches. So I'll subtract 6 from 26 7/16, and that gives me 20 7/16. Divide that by 3, and that gives you 6 13/16 inches. So what you do is you come inside here and inside here and measure up 6 13/16, and you measure down 6 13/16, and you put your pieces on the opposite side of that mark. So you want to make sure that you got 6 13/16 clear between every one of them. You always want to double check this because you can, accidentally put in the wrong number in your calculator or whatever. So you always want to lay it out and make sure that you mark the widths on here and then check in between and make sure that you're showing the same thing, because it's easier to fix a mistake before you assemble this whole thing than to put it all together and realize that you were a ½ inch or an inch off or something like that. So always double check everything that you do and just make sure that everything checks out the way it's supposed to and it's going to work the way it's supposed to. So the next thing we got to do is take these pieces. These are going to be our horizontal grids, and so I got to run them over here to the vertical or to the horizontal belt sander, and we'll step over there and sand those real quick. This is our horizontal belt sander. It's a 6-inch. It's the Grizzly G0512 edge sander, and it does a really, really good job. So we've got a 120 grit sandpaper on this. This does not oscillate. It's just a straight run edge sander. So we're working with poplar today, and we're going to sand these 3-inch bands down real quick and turn the dust collector on. And we've got this thing hooked up. I got a little piece back here that collects all my dust, and you'll see some flying around, but it does the best it can. So we'll turn the dust collector on, get the edge sander turned on, and we'll sand these pieces out. All right, so we got these edges sanded down nice and slick, and you notice that I run it through like this, flip it over, and run it through like that. The reason I do that is because whenever it sands one way, it's going to raise this grain up a little bit. If you flip it over and run it back the other way, it'll flatten it right back down, and it'll be really, really slick. And that's what you want. You always want to sand these, especially smaller pieces. You always want to sand them before you try to assemble them, because if you don't, then you might run into some problems trying to, if you got a little saw kerf in here or something, you're going to run into some trouble trying to sand that out. So you always want to make sure that you sand that first before you get it all assembled and ready to install. So we're going to step over here to the pocket hole machine, and I'll show you how we do some pocket holes. This is our Craig Foreman pocket hole joinery machine. We use it all the time. We love it. This is a really good machine. We've had the pneumatic one, and we've swapped over to the electric. The pneumatic one was really good. I liked the air piston it had on it that, held the pieces down, and it was really cool. But this electric one, you don't have to worry about it being hooked up to air and all that stuff, and it's just, it's a little bit quieter than that other machine was, so we really enjoy this piece. One of the reasons we picked the Craig Foreman is because of the angle of the pocket hole whenever the screw leaves the piece that when you're attaching your piece, and the angle of the screw going into the other piece, it helps whenever we're doing our dados. And so that's one of the main reasons we picked this, is because of the angle. A lot of the other pocket hole joinery systems have a much flatter angle of attack on their screw, and sometimes it'll get into our dado. So I need to have that dado groove a certain depth to be able to support my cabinets, and the Craig Foreman allows that screw to pass under that, and it doesn't affect my my joinery on my cabinet side. So we're going to run a couple pocket holes in here so you can see how this thing works. It's really pretty simple. It's got a couple marks up here that keeps you aligned, so anybody could run this thing. It's not very difficult. This piece right here, whenever you pull down on the handle, this will hold this piece down. It's just a hold down clamp, and it's adjustable up and down. And when the drill bit comes out right there, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a drill bit that comes out here, and it's got a fully adjustable depth stop back here. So if the drill bit ain't going far enough in, you can let it up, and the drill bit will go in farther. If it's going in too far, you can back it off and lock it down so that it's got a permanent set stop on the depth of your pocket hole. And that's really important, especially doing a panel like this where we got to back it with a sheet of plywood. If my screw isn't completely in the hole, it's going to hold my plywood off, which is going to hold my whole frame off the back of the cabinet. So a lot of cabinet making is thinking ahead. and thinking forward and making sure that you've covered all your bases before you get in there and start putting stuff together and realize at the end that you made a critical mistake. So always be thinking forward, always be thinking ahead. And if something looks like it's in the way, it probably is. So let's get some of these pocket holes cut and I'll show you how quick that is. When you're doing these things, you always want to make sure your pretty side is up. So you want to check both sides of the board. You know, if you got any flaws on one side, you always want to make sure that anything that you don't want to see is down, because that's where your pocket hole is going to be and all that will be covered up. So if it's ugly, put it down. See, this is one of the pieces that it's got a little knockout right there. So if I put that down like this and pocket hole through the underside, then it'll be up like that. And whenever I put my trim across the back of it, it'll cover all that up. So you're being able to use pieces that you might not normally be able to use because it's got a piece of trim that's going to cover all that up. So always be thinking ahead. And this is the hole that's made by the Craig system. It's a really neat little hole, and so the screw slides up in there and it comes out this side and it'll join onto your opposing piece. So it's just as simple as that. We put 4 in each one of these, 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and that way whenever we screw it all in, it'll hold it nice and square. This is about as wide as you can go. You might could go 4 inches on these and only have 2 screws, but once you get over that, you want to have 3 screws in it. That way you hold your center down, because sometimes these boards can be a little bit cupped, and you want to make sure that thing's held down so whenever you sand it, it'll kind of stay right there where it's at, and it won't try to buckle up on you during finishing or something like that. So if you get over 4 inches, make sure you put 3 screws in the end of this thing so to make sure it stays nice and flat. All right, so we're back over at the assembly table. You can see I've got all my horizontal pieces laid out. So now it's just time to put them together and make sure everything looks like it's supposed to. We are using pocket hole joinery, so we'll be clamping and screwing all these pieces together, and I'll show you how that works real quick, so just sit tight. We got our little Bosch pistol grip, and we got a long number 2 square drive bit on here, and that way, you know, whenever we're screwing into it, we'll be able to reach that screw all the way in. So whenever you're doing this, if you have a manual clamp system like I do, it's fairly straightforward. Just kind of pull your piece off the edge a little bit. And these should fit fairly tight, and they do, so that's good. Make sure that you're on all your marks that you made. We're using 1.5 inch pocket hole screws, square drive number 2s. And there's a coarse thread. That way we get a good grip. Always run your drill in low speed when you're doing this, because if you don't, a lot of times it'll bust your pocket hole, and then your screw won't be as effective as it should be. So just always make sure that you're running your drill in a low speed. I run mine in first gear, and it seems to be perfect. I usually don't have any problems with it. But that second gear, it can it'll start busting your pocket holes out because the screws go in way too fast. And they seem to grab better when you're in lower gear, especially if you need to pull something together. The low gear is the way to be. When you're doing this, just make sure that you pay attention to your marks. Make sure that you pay attention to the orientation of your piece. Because remember, this is upside down and backwards. So always make sure you're just paying attention. You know, distractions are a killer in a cabinet shop. So just make sure that you're always, you know, on your game. Because one mistake can cost you a day. And one thing I like about the Kreg joinery system is there's so many accessories that you can get with it. They've got, you know, where you can fasten 2x4s together, and it's just the systems that they have and the accessories are really neat. And you know, they're constantly coming out with new things, and the clamping systems they have are really good. You know, they've got the deep throat clamps, they got the shallow ones, they got these little ones like we're using right here. And so the amount of accessories you can get with Kreg is really a good selling point, especially if you like little neat gadgets like that. You know, they got a bunch of cool stuff that goes with it. We got the VersaTrack system for our little circular saw, and it works really well. We use it cutting down slabs and stuff like that, and it's very similar to the one that Festool offers. It's just at a much better price. So, you know, that's one thing you have to focus on too whenever you're doing this. Is, you know, you don't want to tie. You want to have nice tools, but you don't want to have, you know, so many nice tools that you can't afford to material or something like that. You know, you want to make sure that you're watching your costs. And you don't have to start out big. Start out small. You know, if you're just starting into cabinetry or just starting into woodwork, you don't have to have all the best stuff. We started out with, you know, this shop right here had a table saw and a planer in it, and we've actually still got that table saw and that planer. The table saw's right here and the planer's sitting over there. Now we bought some heavy duty equipment whenever we started because we knew what we were going to be doing with it, but we didn't overbuy. You know, there's equipment out there that's a lot more expensive than what we have, but I'm not going to say it's any better. You know, you just want to look and see what other people are saying about it. We use mostly Grizzly equipment in here. I will be getting my first Bailey mortising machine. I've never had any Bailey equipment, and I'm looking forward to getting it and using it. And Grizzly makes one very similar to it, but the Bailey throat was a little bit deeper on it, and some of the beams and stuff that we mess with, I had to have that deeper side, and so that's why we decided to go with the Bailey. But these panels are really easy to install. You know, just pay attention to it, pay attention to your layout. Whenever they get longer like this, it's kind of aggravating on the table, but you just make do with what you got. I know we talk about this some, but you know, our relationship with Jesus Christ is very important. You know, this world is not a very friendly place, and it's a strange place. And the closer you become to God, the stranger it gets. So, I hope everybody out there has a good relationship with God. I hope everybody has a good relationship with Jesus Christ. That's very important as men, leading our children, leading our families, trying to do what's right all the time, being a positive example in our churches, being a positive example in our communities, and showing people that it's okay to be big and tough and macho and still love Jesus Christ. There's nothing to be ashamed about in that. It's one of the most important aspects of your life. If you want to talk about it, I'll be glad to talk to you about it. You can message me below, comment below. I'll pray with you, pray for you. One day I'll get on here and give my testimony, because it's kind of interesting where I was in my life a few years ago, and the transition that I had. It was a complete conversion from what I was, and I wasn't a bad person. I was, I did all the right things, I thought, and the Lord stopped me in my tracks and told me that I wasn't doing all the right things. And when God speaks, we listen. Because all He wants us to do is love Him. In Ecclesiastes, Solomon was trying to figure out the meaning of life. And what's the meaning of life? What does it mean that we're all out here working like this, and we're toiling under the sun, and it's kind of, Ecclesiastes is a really interesting book. Solomon's talking about all these things that he's seen in his life, and he's a very, very wise man. Probably, he's the wisest man that ever walked the face of the earth. So for him to be questioning the meaning of life, kind of sit back and listen to that a little bit and try to figure out what it is. Well, after all the things that he thought about and all the things that he was concerned about, he came up with two simple things that we were supposed to do in this life that was required of us. It's like right at the very end, it might be the next to the last verse in Ecclesiastes. The two things that he decided that we were supposed to do is fear God and follow His commandments. Sounds easy enough, but do we really fear God in a reverent way? That's kind of up to you to decide. Do you fear God? Not scared feared, but do you fear Him in a respectful way? Do you understand the wrath of God? Do you understand the power of God? Do you understand the power of Jesus Christ? Do we understand? Do I understand it? I don't know. I think I do, and I hope that you do. And, fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And when you follow. When you know what's right and wrong according to God's word, you follow. Don't try to water it down. Don't try to convince yourself that sin isn't sin. Don't try to let others convince you that sin isn't sin. And we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. But through the mercy and grace of Jesus Christ, we've all been saved through His bloodshed. Because God loved us so much that He gave His only Son. And that'd be something hard to do, to sacrifice your own child for the betterment of other people. But God did that just for us. And if you're ready to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior today, please comment below and let me know. and I'll be glad to talk to you. I mean, we're the Armor of God. You know, we're right here. Have people come in here all the time, just wanting to know what's inside the Armor of God, and they get in here and realize it's a really cool cabinet shop. All right, so we got all those put together, and there it is. That's the whole back of the island. Now we'll walk over there and get it assembled, and then we'll see what that looks like. So sit tight. All right, so you saw us lay the grid out to do this island, and we had to put a plywood back on it. We had to install it on the carcass, and so we've done that. And so what we've got is we've got a 1/2 inch piece of plywood behind this grid out that we did. We spent a majority of the day yesterday making all this trim that goes in here. We had to make about 115, 120 feet of it, and it's a simple chamfer trim. And so we built all of this out of poplar, and then of course we got the birch plywood on the back. So this is the island that we just finished up, and it's going to be an L-shaped island. I'll walk you around in just a second, but you can see how evenly these grids are distributed across the height of this panel. And so it took a little bit of math, a little bit of geometry, and once we got it all laid out and figured out, everything went together just flawlessly. And we're very excited about getting this piece completed, framed, and so we'll begin to paint it next week. But anyways, just kind of wanted to show you how we did it, and I'll get you a little bit in here a little bit closer so you can see all the little bitty details that we did. And so you can see all those different little panels, and that's a very time consuming part of this project, was just putting all of it together. It looks beautiful. It's going to be real nice once we get it all painted and everything. Got this corner put together, so we got, it's a pretty good size L-shaped island. It's I think it's going to serve the kitchen well, and it just turned out to be beautiful. So if you're looking at how you can grid something out, then that's the easiest way to do it. And of course over here we've got the matching panels on the end, and then we've got plenty of storage in the island. So we've got 12 drawers in the island that'll give plenty of storage. I'd seen somebody mention on one of our videos about how we do the side of our cabinet. These go all the way down to the floor, so the support is all the way down to the floor, but you can see how we frame up the backs, and whenever we put those uppers in there, it holds it all together. And of course we've got this piece right here that keeps it all nice and straight, and we've got these triangle pieces that we cut and put in the corners, and that way we stay nice and square with our build. This will be fastened from the inside right here, and it'll just be fastened straight down that corner right there. And we got a toe kick on this side. And so anyways, that's the finished build out on this island. We got to paint it and build our drawer boxes and build our drawer fronts and everything, and get this on the job and get it installed. But anyways, that's just wanted you to kind of see how we do those panels and how gorgeous it looks whenever you get done with it. So anyways, if you think it's awesome, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Armor of God Woodworks. Hit that subscription bell so whenever we upload a video, you'll be able to make sure you don't miss it. And we'll catch you on the next one. Y'all have a blessed day.